This is Acadiana's Morning News, and we are talking about internet gaming disorder. The World Health Organization saying that people can actually be addicted to video games. So joining us on the phone right now is a licensed professional counselor and the founder of the Brain Performance Center, Lee Richardson. Lee, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, so let's talk about this for a few minutes. Very popular games like World of Warcraft, Pokemon, and people are actually getting addicted to these games. Some people have actually died over their obsession with playing video games. And, this is a topic that Shannon and I, when I'm in the afternoons on Offsides, has actually tackled and talked about with our listeners. Is internet gaming an actual diagnosable condition? Can you please explain internet gaming disorder, or IGD? Can you explain that for us, please, Lee?
Well, to me, the internet gaming disorder is a form of addiction. And when you stop and when you look at what the gaming does to the brain, we used to think about addiction. That's alcohol or pills. Well, addiction has changed. It's all about pleasurable activity. And there's this pleasure principle in the brain. Anytime that you start doing something, whether it's playing your game or checking your social media, seeing how many likes you get, you say, I like this. The brain starts feeling, I like this. And then it starts releasing this neurotransmitter called dopamine. And dopamine is a real feel-good neurotransmitter. So the nerve cells get kind of confused with repeated exposure. It goes from, I like this, to, I want this, to, I need it, I got to do it, I got to have it. So, and whether it's the gaming or the social media or shopping online or gambling, all of that affects the brain the same way. And what it does, particularly with those games, think about it. You're getting ready to face this zombie with this huge pipe, and that kind of, throws you into that fight or flight mode, kind of get into that hyperarousal state. And if you get in that fight or flight mode too often or too intensely, the brain and the body have trouble regulating themselves back to a calm state, and it leads to chronic stress.
So we're talking with Lee Richardson, LPC, and the founder of the Brain Performance Center. I mentioned that people have actually died as a result of this, and some people, in comparing this to an addiction like what you've talked about, basically the person has no control over his or her gaming behavior. When we talk about no control over it, do you believe that? Do you believe that it becomes to the point where they really cease having control over it, or is it still within their grasp to be able to take control of their life for it?
Well, there's two ways we can look at that. One is on what's going on in the body. So anytime you get in that chronic stress state, that sets the blood flow. It directs it away from the frontal lobes. And that's the part of your brain where you make good decisions, you pay attention, you're not impulsive, and it directs that blood flow to the parts of the body that, you need for survival. So that does cause impairment in the way the brain is functioning. Now, the other side of it is it a choice that they need to learn to make, to walk away from the game? And I think, that makes me think about, well, why are they playing this game? Why is gaming so powerful? And one reason, video games are a challenge. And for some people, being challenged can be very motivating. And the challenge of the game is addicting. And another good thing about video games is you can see constant measurable growth. In a lot of these games, you level up. I'm not a gamer. What I know comes from mainly working with my clients. But for a lot of my clients, they don't have anything to do on a Friday night. They don't care. They just log on and start playing games with their so-called friends that they've never met. And it's a great escape from reality. Screen time is a really easy solution to being bored. And I think part of the problem with some of them is, I know some I've worked with, they want to stop, but they don't know how to stop. and they don't believe they can stop.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that it has something to do, because you kind of mentioned, say on a Friday night they're bored and they are able to kind of escape reality. Would you say it's something that is an area of their life that, while in some ways we're talking about a lack of control, in other ways this is an area where they can control, because maybe they struggle in reality, but if you go into this virtual reality, you build up a persona there. You've built up, like you said, successes where you tackle challenges, and that is something that they can control going into that virtual reality.
Absolutely. And plus they got all this really feel-good dopamine going on in their brain, And usually the stories I hear, it always starts with, this is just a fun way for me to spend time with my friends and my family. It's a nice break from my schoolwork, but it pulls you in. Mm-hmm. You love playing the video games, so you play more and more and more. And then it gets to the point where the video game becomes your best friend. You no longer you socially isolate. You no longer, it's too much trouble to walk all the way down the street to hang out with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Lee, is there a specific age group that you see that it's more prevalent? Is it 10 to 15 where it really, really starts, or is this kind of a wide age group that we're looking at?
Well, I was really surprised because I did a little bit of research into that, because I would have thought, 12, 17, and 97% of U.S. kids in that age group play video games. Mm-hmm. But there was also some statistics for 8 and under, and that blew my mind.
Wow.
I think that, it's changed. Now it starts with an iPad. This is how you learn your ABCs. This is how you learn your colors.
Right.
And the iPad's very interactive, and it's fun. And it does the same thing, that screen time. That gets that dopamine going in the brain. So I think that it's really starting at much younger. I mean, I've seen a 5-year-old take a phone and do things with it that just amaze me.
So what's kind of the borderline for a parent? Is there any advice for a parent that because, we kind of take long road trips and we got the iPads and the movies and the games and all this stuff is there. I don't know, any quick 101 advice to parents to maybe help prevent and mitigate this to being a long-term issue?
Absolutely. Is all gaming bad? No. Not when you're making informed decisions for your kids. Mm-hmm. Know that all the games are rated by age and by content. Know how they're rated. And a lot of them have the parental controls that you can put into place. There's a really good website called internetmatters.org, and it's got some great information for parents. And the other thing I say is the hard part is getting them off the screen. Mm-hmm. So before you let them get on the screen, set some realistic expectations. Before the start of the game, okay, we're going to play for 30 minutes today. I'm going to give you a 5-minute warning. And if the kid's young, I say, set the old timer on the kitchen counter.
Right.
And, I still have one of those.
Oh, yeah.
But set that. And be firm but fair. If you give them the 5-minute warning and it's up and they only have 1 more minute and they're going to defeat that snaggle beast thing, let them do it, But I always say give them options. Every minute you go over, that's going to cost you 5 minutes from your next session.
Now, Lee,
it's all about balance.
Now, say it's gotten past the point where we're talking about dealing with children, and I'm so glad Chad brought that up because there are a lot of parents listening. But say it's gotten past that point. There are a lot of adults that struggle with this as well. What would you recommend to someone that notices a loved one or a friend really struggling and becoming addicted to video games? What would you recommend that person do? Or if someone's listening and they do struggle with an addiction to video games, what would be your recommendations as a licensed professional counselor?
Well, there are a lot of adults out there that do struggle with it. Mm-hmm. And they're the ones that, they realize, I'm really wasting a whole lot of time here. I'm not being as productive as I could be. Or they realize, you know what? I don't really know how to go out and meet a partner and talk to somebody. I need to work on my social skills a little bit. So if you see somebody in in that place, reach out and help them understand the psychology that keeps them gaming, and let them know that encourage them to find something they're passionate about to fill that void. Because when you go from gaming, 3 to 4 to 5 hours a day, you got a big hole.
Yeah.
You got a big hole in your time, and that can be hard to fill. And nothing good happens when you're bored. Nothing.
Lee, I will say this before I let you go, and we really appreciated your insight into this. One difference I will say between gaming and an addiction like drugs is, at least in gaming, it can be something that, and I think of, playing with, family with the Wii. I think of playing the tennis games and stuff like that on the Wii. Something with gaming, some people have a complete negative connotation of it, but it's something that can be used, like you said, for having fun, but also for spending family time as well. I think of, as a kid, playing video games with my parents and some of the great memories that I have of that. So while it definitely has those addictive measures like drugs that which you've talked about, at least there are some good elements of it that can be turned into a positive, as opposed to obviously drugs.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of games out there that really you use your creativity and your imagination, so that's just, check out what's available. Look at the ratings, and make good informed decisions about what your kids play.
All right, Lee Richardson, licensed professional counselor and the founder of the Brain Performance Center. Ma'am, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Lee.
My pleasure.